Narcissist versus empath. It was never a fair fight. Not when you're playing with love and they were playing a game. Hey, beautiful thriver, if you're here, I know that you felt the soul-wrenching pain of narcissistic abuse. And you've likely tried everything to get better, things like therapy, self-help, spiritual teachings. And yet you're still left with the same stuck trauma, the same triggers, the same grief, and the same confusion. And you may be wondering, why do they always win? Why are they sailing off into the sunset with the new girl, they've taken the house, they've got the boat, they've got the car, they've got everything. They're going on holidays and I'm still in bed and I can barely get up and make a cup of tea. Why am I still broken? And they get away with all of it. I understand that because I've lived it. I know what that feels like. If you don't know me, I'm Melanie Tonia Evans, and almost 20 years ago, narcissistic abuse brought me to my knees. Nothing conventional worked for me to get better. But what I discovered, and I now teach all over the world, is a radically different way to heal, quantum healing. And today and for years, I've been helping empaths, light workers, and sensitive souls finally break free and reclaim their light. Because if you are one of those people, talking about it and learning about it is not enough. And this is the talk that I wish I'd heard when I was in pieces on my bathroom floor. And if you're ready, it might just be a turning point for you as well. So let me just take you back to the moment as the narcissist versus empath, where I thought I had nothing left, not just to give, but to continue living for. And I was lying on my bathroom floor shaking. At that point in my life, I was unable to eat, sleep, or think. I'd had a complete psychotic and adrenal breakdown. I was emotionally bankrupt. I was financially bankrupt. My nervous system and my health was in pieces. And I had loved, I had overgiven, I'd over-explained, I'd begged, I'd cried, I'd pleaded, I'd bled myself dry, and I'd given chance after chance after chance after chance, hoping that he could finally see me, appreciate me, change, realize what he was doing to me and snap out of it. And in my life prior to quantum healing, I used to be such a giver. I believed in the good in people, and that's one of the hugest problems that empaths have is we see everybody as we see ourselves, as we believe people are like us, that they have good hearts, they have a conscience, they want to do the right thing, that they have the capacity to wake up and realize that what they're doing. And that's why we think that if we just love them enough, we can fix what was broken. And that's what I once believed. And I really believe that if we do this, that people are going to love us back. But instead, they drain us. And it mightn't even just be the narcissistic individual that you're having the massive problems with. It can be in so many areas in our lives where we're handing people our light, because we're thinking that they're made of light and that they adhere to the light, and that's how they want to live their own lives. But that moment on the floor when I had and it was a life and death breakdown, because I was ready to leave the planet. That was actually the point of my massive breakthrough, because from that rubble, from that rock bottom, I had an epiphany. And I remembered who I really was. And piece by piece, as an empath, as an overgiver, I realized how to call my light back so that I could stop proving, pleasing, rescuing, and explaining. And I could also stop hoping that people would see my light and grant it back to me. And I realized my life wasn't about that. And I realized how to turn my light in for myself and start protecting it in healthy ways rather than handing it out to the wrong people. And I also realized it's not wrong to have empathy. It's a really beautiful thing to be empathetic, to deeply feel and to deeply care. It just needed boundaries. It needed discernment. It needed me. And that's when I turned inwards. And that's when I found the path of quantum healing, which radically changed doing life from the outside in, trying to fix and change people to get me, to actually get myself and present my true self with boundaries and value, and still care and still be compassionate and still be an empath. So what so many empaths have believed through the experience with narcissists that cracked it right open is it's not safe to shine. And that's one of the deepest illusions that we absorb after narcissistic abuse, is that it's not safe to be seen. That if we are an empath, if we've got an open heart, if we're a good person, that we're going to be a target. And I totally get that you feel like that, because after the betrayal, the gaslighting and the humiliation of being a good person and putting our heart in the ring, and also too, the thing is with us, which is very different from narcissists, we invest. Empaths invest. You actually put your heart out there and you're vulnerable, you're real, you are genuinely seeking to connect, which brings risk. Absolutely. Whereas narcissists don't. Their heart isn't open to themselves. They don't have a connection to a true self. They're a mask, a mirage. And a mirage that's not real doesn't have heart. It doesn't have truth and integrity. So a narcissist is putting forward a mask. So therefore, if it doesn't deeply connect or if it doesn't get hurt, they can't really get hurt because there's no true self in there that's put themselves at risk. But empaths do. So what happens is when you have the betrayal from a narcissist and the gaslighting and the humiliation, and you're experiencing so often that they will do things in relationships that put the relationship at risk continuously, over and over again. Like you look at yourself and you go, I would never behave like that because I know if I did, you might leave me because that was really calculating, cruel, dismissive, and not loving. Especially, gaslighting and twisting and turning and lying to you and things that they do. However, the narcissist doesn't seem to care. And the reason they don't care is because they're leading with a false self. The false self is just looking after protecting their own shame barrier. They don't care. They haven't invested their heart, is what I'm saying. So you believe that if I open my heart, again, it's going to kill me. But what happens is when our heart's not open and we're not free to be a light body as a light self, we have to hide. We have to retreat. We have to hide our brilliance. We convince ourselves that being invisible is protection. And when our heart's no longer open, the field can't respond to meet us with expansion and opportunity and synchronicity and joy and love. We're closed off from all of the good stuff. And that's why it feels so painful. And I know that we really believe that being invisible is the only way that we're going to be safe. We have to shut our heart. We have to shrink back. And I promise you, I believed that too initially. And after everything I went through, especially in my healing hiatus, my period of healing, I locked myself away. I barely left the house. And I believed that shining would mean being targeted again. And of course, this is a stage we need to go through to initially heal after all of the soul devastation that you've experienced and the smashing of your heart as an empath. However, long term and even medium term, hiding doesn't protect us. It actually imprisons us. And I remember working with one of my female clients, I'll call her Sally. And this is such a good example because she was a vibrant artist. She was bold, she was colorful, she was radiant, she was, sharing herself with the world until after being through a narcissistic abuse experience, it dimmed her completely. And by the time we met as a personal client, she was also in the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program, she was so diminished. She was dressing in beige. She could barely speak. She was just so numb and traumatized. And we did the deep inner quantum shift work with her. We targeted and shifted out the traumas in her body that was saying to her and holding her hostage with, "You're only safe if you're invisible." And these were beliefs not just from the narcissistic experience. She'd experienced them in childhood as well with a narcissistic father that tried to dim her light. And she'd also carried these in from deep past life traumas that came up in her healing that were in her energy field, and they'd always been there. She'd overcome them to the point where the narcissist fully activated them and brought them up for her, which gloriously was so that she could heal them. Because she'd actually said before then, she'd said, "I was an introvert extrovert, like I put on this front of, being colorful and bold and everything." But she said, then I'd go out in the world and I'd be so exhausted and I'd have my energy stolen from me and I'd have to go home and kind of retreat to get my energy back. So even though I loved expressing myself, there was a part of it that didn't really feel authentic and anchored. So this is what happens in our life. Our soul presents the perfect experiences for us to actually have triggered up to the surface what it is that we need to heal so that we can go forth into our highest and our best self. So we did the work on that stuff, the stuff in her energy field that she'd never healed yet. And when we released it and replaced it with her higher self, which is our superconscious that we all have access to through quantum healing, she literally exploded back into color within weeks. She launched a new business combining art and healing that quickly flourished. But the thing that she said was, which was just so beautiful, for the first time in my life, I actually feel authentically expressive. I feel safe in my body and safe to be colorful and put myself out there. It's not an act anymore. It's real. I'm free. So that's what happens. So this is the whole thing. Our light, your light, was never actually the problem. It was the trauma inside you that's been messing with it and made you give it to the wrong people and caused the skirmishes that have been happening in your life where you've never felt truly, truly safe. So also too, a lot of people, a lot of empaths that I see in the program in NARP and a lot of empaths that I see as personal clients, what they say to me, because remember, your heart's been smashed, you put your vulnerability on the table, you got absolutely shredded to pieces, and it feels like that deep in your identity, a lot of people say, "I'm too broken to heal." And that's another lie that keeps us stuck. The lies such as, "I've lost too much, it's too late for me." And I remember those feelings as well. I had them when, by the point where I broke at my rock bottom from narcissistic abuse, I had literal brain damage. I had trauma that was so bad, I had complete adrenal malfunction, complicated post-traumatic stress disorder, massive cognitive dissonance, still so trauma bonded. I had fibromyalgia through the roof. My whole body had broken down and I had completely broken. And there were days in my life where I could barely make it through the next 5 seconds, let alone the next hour. That's how bad it felt. And I'd lost everything I'd worked for in my life up to 40 years of age. My world had been smeared against me. I was left completely alone. Other than even my family had turned against me. It was horrific. So I really want you to understand it, no matter where you're at, and you're starting where you're at, we're at where we're at when we get to that point, when we have that moment. I love what Joe Dispenza says. He says the moment of personal catharsis is when you realize life can no longer go on as normal. And the truth is, for all of us, it's a quantum law of so within, so without. This is why I love quantum healing. And the quantum law says that nothing can appear in our experience unless we actually have an unhealed trauma or belief that matches it. And this isn't about blaming us and saying we're wrong or we're defective. It's saying we're human, we lived on the planet, and as empaths, we absorb so much and we take on so much of not just our own traumas, but the whole collectives, let alone our families, that we do hold a lot of false beliefs and a lot of traumas that match being re-traumatized. That's the truth. So healing starts wherever you're at, and it doesn't require perfection. There was nothing about perfect in my healing when I was at that point. It's about presence. For me, it was about the change of life from the outside in. I'm a victim. This is all happening to me. In my breakdown epiphany, when my head broke and I saw the truth, it was like, hang on, there's something inside me that's matched this. And if I can address that, well, then that is going to stop and end. I didn't know I was going to get radically better. I didn't know I was going to thrive and have the best life I could ever imagine. But that's what started happening. And it started reversing very, very quickly. One of my clients, she came to see me in her 60s. All right, let's just call her May. Right, I'm not giving out names for their own privacy. But yeah, you can have a look at tons of testimonies that I've got on my website where people do give out their names. But I just want to share this one with you because she was in her 60s and she'd been with a narcissist for 35 years. He took everything, which is common. She was sick, which is common. He'd completely broken her down and he divorced her and he married his younger secretary. And she told me there is no way that I can come back from this. But she started small and she started with quantum healings, just an hour a day. And this was while she was living with her sister in a spare bedroom. And within 6 months, her health returned. She got enough of a settlement to buy a little cottage. And this was in 6 months. And she said to me, this is the first time I've ever truly felt alive. Ever. She was narcissistically abused as a child too. She'd never felt her own energy, her own compassion, her own love, her own light, which is what feeling alive is. And she felt it. So I really want you to know, no matter where you are with narcissistic abuse and where you are in your aftershock with it, because usually when you get away, you feel worse than better. And people in your life go, hang on a minute, you're away, you should be better. It's where all of the things that happened have a chance to hit you like a freight train. If you want to understand more about that, Google my name and aftershock and look it up, because not many people will tell you about it. So you might be in that horrible, horrible aftershock where you feel like I am literally dying and I feel like I have no light. My light is completely gone. But I want you to know your light isn't gone. It's just buried under trauma. And when you clear that trauma out, which is what quantum healing does so effectively, where talk therapy doesn't, your light reignites naturally, organically. So a lot of what we also believe after narcissistic abuse is no one's going to support me because nobody seems to understand. Narcissists, as we know, are detached from their true self. They are living a role because it's a performance, it's not presence, what they do. And this performance, and the narcissistic performance is so much about how others see them. So narcissists, when you're in relationship with them, as the empath, of course, you are disheveled, you're triggered, you're devastated, you're incensed. And because you're an authentic human being, you're showing up in that way. Like you're not going to put on this act and go into performance. You are, and you're sharing those authentic feelings with people. Whereas the narcissist is doing the cool, calm performance of I'm the nice guy or girl who's got it all together and there's nothing wrong with me. And it's the other person that's the problem. So what happens is when you're in that state of your afterlife, or when the cracks have appeared horrifically in your narcissistic relationship, and they're very good at smearing and lying and looking people straight in the eyes and telling them versions that are just garbage. And the thing is with a narcissist, they are so wired to create a version that suits their narrative to protect their shame. So to the narcissist has got to be one or two things, either the hero or the villain, the hero or the victim. So they're going to rearrange the story to fit one of those roles, which always means that, you know, they're the good person in your life with your disorders, or because of your disorders, you're destroying them. And that's what they present to people. And that's just narcissistic script that they all go into, because the last thing a narcissist is going to do is be accountable for their part in it and be honest, because that would expose their shame that feels self-annihilating to them, that they created a false self so that they would never have to touch that place. So of course, people in your life who are good people naturally believe that when an adult looks you in the eyes and tells you something, that it's true. And narcissists are consummate actors. They're just so good at being believable. All the people around you think that, well, they agree with them. Just say me in the chat if that's happened to you. Just say me. Just say me. Okay? Because I think it's just a completely common thing. And the thing is, what I want you to do, I want you to make sure that you share this video out, because you will have friends and family and communities who are empaths, who have been in, every empath comes up in a battle with a narcissist. I don't know an empath that hasn't, to be honest, unless they are an empowered empath with great boundaries, which takes time and usually a narcissistic abuse experience to crack you open to get those in place, your own healing, your own values, your own boundaries. If you haven't got those asserted and instilled, you are going to get hit by a narcissist. That's just the way it is. All right. And the thing is, sadly, if an empath closes their heart and jumps over the fence and is traumatized enough, they can start acting and behaving like a narcissist, but it's not who you are. So the thing is, you might be feeling completely alone in your narcissistic abuse experience. You think nobody gets it, nobody understands. This is Jekyll and Hyde. This is street angel, home devil. People don't see this version of this person at all. And you feel really isolated. You feel really shame-based. You're being smeared. And it's horrible. And you may have experienced family turning against you. Friends are fading away. And we end up believing that there's nobody ever there to support us. I promise you, I know this pain so bad. It was one of the most horrible parts of my journey, but liberating, was this whole trauma of nobody gets me. Everybody believes this person, including the police. It was full on. And I cried night after night. I was traumatized. I could barely leave my house. And I was begging for somebody to see me, to believe me, to love me. Another one of my clients, so many of you have, and one of my clients that I want to talk about, she felt this too. And it was awful because kids were involved. Her husband took the kids, destroyed her reputation, labeled her the narcissist. And she wanted to die. And she literally got institutionalized because she attempted that. It was awful. And what happened was she found NARP while she was recovering in hospital. And she started doing shifts and she started healing. And what happened was the pain of the just horrific devastation left her body. Light came in, and what happened is she was able to recreate, she was able to heal and get out of there, She ended up getting her children returned to her. New soul connections arrived in her life. People that had believed him came back to her, apologizing. He had moved a new woman into the house who was looking after the kids. His relationship fell to bits. His work fell to bits. He ended up moving overseas. She ended up remarrying and having more babies. A beautiful, beautiful man. So she was able to rewire all her beliefs and all of her traumas that had always been dormant inside her and defunct. Hence the quantum law. And it all played out in the most horrible, horrific ways. All of the beliefs of like, I'm unworthy of love. People who love me betray me. People who love me leave me. People who love me annihilate me. They were all in her subconscious programs. And they all got completely activated and exploded into her present day reality field through the ex-husband. But she cleared them with NARP, and her whole life did a 180-degree turn. And she's a beautiful, beautiful empath. She now leads a community of other women who've also risen, or she certainly did that after I worked with her. I've lost contact, but that's what she did. So I want you to know you're not alone. The field, source, your soul, your beingness wants to present you with your highest and best. It's just trauma is in the way of it. And you're just not yet in the frequency of people who can see your light. Because we can have light and we can have empathy, but if our frequency is muddied with beliefs and traumas from childhood or past lives of if I shine my light, it's going to be used against me. If I hand out my light, I'm going to be annihilated. People take my light and drain me. If we've got all of that on board because they've been our experiences, then we end up recreating them to do with our light. And I see that with empaths all the time. But I promise you that when you're aligned in the frequency of my traumas are gone and I'm safe to be in my light, not only will people see it, you'll also be a natural sovereign protector of it. You will start to have boundaries. You will stand up for yourself. You will speak. Because when you've got light inside you, if somebody isn't in frequency with your light and you say no, you don't care. Because you're not needing them anymore. You've already got your light. And that's when people who are healthy start coming into your life. Okay, so I want you to understand, and I hope that you can understand that through this. Your light is not something to be snuffed out, hidden, or buried. Because if you do, imagine this metaphor. You've locked yourself in a dark, gloomy house. You've shut the shutters and the front door, and you've locked yourself in there. And this is literally the metaphor of your unhealed wounds are going to eat you alive. And so sadly, this is so many empaths, by the time they come to me for help, that's exactly where they are. They feel intensely victimized. They're full of complicated post-traumatic stress disorder. They have no trust in themselves. They think their pick is broken. They think the whole world's against them. And of course, these are the beliefs and the emotions and they can't think their way out of it. Because here's the thing, our subconscious beliefs are driving 97% of our life. By the time we're 35 years of age, you have 3% brain power to try to think your way out of that, and your thinking defaults back into that. So we've got to get into the body to do a shift, a quantum shift, to be able to change your beingness, to be able to get your way out of this. And your light is the key. So why have narcissists always won in the past? And they do. I've seen it time and time again. Why do they win? Because we haven't yet claimed the power that was always ours. They don't steal our light because they're powerful. And in fact, narcissists aren't even powerful. They are not powerful at all. They are deeply insecure, broken individuals that have created a false self to work through. And the only way that they get power, because they don't have any of their own, they're not even real, is by stealing other people's power by keeping them controlled in fear and pain. It's the only way. they ever win. And the only way that they can do that is if we are disconnected from our own light and power. But here's the truth that I really want you to understand. Your light is your essence. It's your soul, it's your higher self, it's your source self. It's who your organic self is. It doesn't need to be earned. It just needs to be remembered. It just needs to be reactivated. And that's what I teach and what I'm so passionate about in quantum healing, because no amount of information or research or talk therapy did it for me, as it doesn't do for a lot of light workers, empaths, highly sensitive people who are hugely, usually spiritual, intuitive, who feel energy incredibly. You are the light bearers and the way showers of New Earth. You actually are. And virtually every single one of you is going to get targeted by a narcissist. And you're not here to do standard surface level recovery, because it's not even going to work on you. You feel too much. You have too high a frequency to do the 3% work to get better. And in fact, virtually nobody gets better, but highly sensitive people certainly don't get better unless you go to a deeper level of your recovery. And believe you me, I tried everything, and I've met everybody that's tried everything. So quantum transformation is what makes a massive, massive difference. And that's a way to shift trauma straight out of your cells, your subconscious, and your soul, to go free from it. Because no matter how broken you feel, once the trauma is lifted up and out and it's gone from your system and replaced with your true higher self light codes, and I promise you, this is not woo-woo, this is just life force. Once that's happened, your light switches on again, and the light heals what we logically can't. It literally reactivates you. I have healed brain damage. I have healed, and I've seen it. I can't even tell you the things that I've seen healed. The things that we're told. I was told in my recovery, with the breakdown that I had, that I would never recover and I would need 3 antipsychotics for the rest of my life to have any level of functioning. All of that was not the truth. Once the trauma went, my system, my innate God source self knows how to heal itself without trauma, and so does yours, in every way, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially. Your system knows how to reset itself. So I want you to know, no matter how broken you feel as an empath, healing is possible, because your light isn't lost, it was just buried. So I have seen so many people, when you think that the narcissist is winning, that you think they're going to take everything, they're going to take the kids, they're going to do this or do that, is when that trauma and that fear goes, and you stand in integrity and authenticity, and you stand up and you take the actions you need, and you're no longer in fear, the narcissist crumbles into dust. Every time. We have so many cases of that in our community. I think I'm the only community, humbly, where that actually happens, because I'm the only community I know of that actually does quantum transformation instead of talk therapy, and focusing all on the narcissist and saying, well, you're just stuck with the trauma. No, you're not. You're actually on the edge of your greatest breakthrough. And I hope with what I've explained today that it makes sense why. Just write sense in the chat if it's starting to make sense. Write sense in the chat. Also, too, something within you, cellular knowing, may be waking up and remembering what I'm telling you is actually the truth of how your cellular being works, because that's how it works. So what's great about this is when you go free from internal trauma, your light reactivates, which is your healing, which is your resetting, and which is also connecting you to your higher timeline, which where all the goodies are. Source, your soul, your higher self all want you to thrive. It's just our embedded internal trauma that keeps us disconnected from our highest good. And what's beautiful about this is there's nothing to learn. You know, we've all been trying, and I used to do it for years too, to put ice cream on top of poop. as a sensitive, as somebody breaking down, as a codependent, as an empath, as all of these skirmishes and things that I've had, and being overly going towards people that hurt me, trying to fix them so that they could love me. Huge. All of that turned around when I realized that I was trying to learn my way out of that, trying to learn all about my past and why I'm like that, and learning different ways to show up to stop doing that. And what I realized on the quantum healing journey is when I just targeted the traumas in my body, creating those problems, let them go and replace them with my true self, I stopped doing it. I just stopped doing it. It wasn't who I was anymore. My old self was gone. So you'll discover that this can be happening. And I know what gets stuck in our energy system is, well, when I come back to myself and I can come out and I can be in the world as myself, aren't I going to be a bigger target for narcissists? And let me ask you this. The answer is no. In your true light, in your inner glow, in your deservedness, in your feelings of wholeness, health, empowered and anchored values, do you think you're going to tolerate those behaviors anymore? You're not. It's like, when you get healthy and you start eating beautiful, nutritious food, are you going to go and stuff your face full of lollies? It's just not you anymore. And it's exactly the same with narcissists. If you've read the book Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz, there's a beautiful part in it where he's talking about two different women, and the first woman, she doesn't cook for herself and her kitchen's not stocked. And this guy comes and knocks on her door and he's got this greasy pizza, and she's a lovely person. Like, she helps everybody else and she cares about everybody else. She's not caring for herself at all. And this guy, she's hungry, and he knocks on the door and he's got this delicious smelling pizza. And he says, and she's starving. And he says to her, I'll bring you pizza every day, but you have to accept me and whatever goes with that. And she feels so empty and broken and hungry, and he's paying her attention, that she goes, yeah, okay. And you can imagine, right? And then you have the other woman who lives next door, and he knocks on her door with the same offer. She goes to the door, she opens it, and he's got the beautiful smelling pizza. And she says, why would I take that offer when I have a well-stocked kitchen full of incredible nutritious food that I make for myself every day? Why would I be interested? No, thank you. So the metaphor is, for the empath, is about when we lose our trauma and we no longer identify with being broken and a victim and vulnerable and victimized, because we've healed that up. And we feel whole and we feel sovereign and we feel self-valuing and self-loved, which is all of the natural things that come online when we lose our trauma, because they are your organic self. That's who we are under our trauma, naturally, I promise you. When that comes online, are you going to accept the greasy pizza? Are you going to accept the dude or the girl who comes along, who screws with your mind, who breadcrumbs you, who removes their love, who makes it conditional, who makes you jump through hoops, who blames you for every conversation that they don't want to feel shame about? Are you going to accept that anymore? No, you're not. And that's what a boundary is. You say, no, thank you. That's not for me anymore. Not lecturing, not prescribing, not trying to fix, not trying to change, just saying, I'm done, because that's not me. And then you're free to be your light. I really hope that some part of you can feel this, because I promise you, you won't accept narcissism in your life anymore. You won't pine after it. You won't obsess about it. You won't go through all of the conversations about, well, if I'd have done this or if they'd have done that and if only this and if only that. You will go free. And then narcissists will no longer hook you, because you're going to yin, they're going to yang, and you're going to lose your appetite for that completely. So I hope that this has inspired you The last thing I want on this planet is for empaths not to be the beautiful lighthouses that they are, which is holding the space for the rest of humanity to get into their heart and authenticity and truth and really love themselves and others. You guys are the people that are here to bring this message to planet Earth. Don't lose your light, but you need to heal so that you can fully be in it safely. So that's my little talk for today. If you want to know more about how to do that, check out the link in the description above, which is my NARP program. And you know, I'm here to show up with you for you with quantum healings in every single way I can to help you. So spread this message out, share it, and keep shining, keep healing, and be the light. And I love you all. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.